This video will cover the key ideas that we went over in class on Monday or Tuesday, March 15th and 16th. Note that students are in a lot of different places at this point in the unit. So while this video will cover some of the main ideas we discussed today, please see the link below for the work that you need to specifically make up so that you know what exactly it is you need to do to be caught up from class today. So the first thing we did was a do now that reviewed something we learned a few weeks back. Order the numbers from least to greatest. -9, 0.9, 9, and 1/9. I suggest that before you watch me solve this problem, you go ahead, pause this video, click the first Desmos link that's listed just in the main folder of the Schoology page. It'll say Monday 315 classwork or Tuesday 316 classwork, and go ahead and give this a try on your own just so you can see where you're at. Okay, so hopefully you've tried this on your own. The first thing that I did in class was I pointed out that -9 was definitely the least because it's the only number we have that is negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at least. Again, we're ordering from least to greatest. And I know that +9 is definitely my greatest number because it is greater than 1, whereas both 0.9 and 1/9 are both less than 1. So I know that that +9 is definitely going to be my larger number. So I can compare 0.9 and 1/9 by converting 1/9 into a decimal. And you might remember that we convert fractions to decimals by dividing the top, the numerator, 1 divided by 9. And that's going to give you 0.11, and in a calculator it would be 0.111111, but we can stop at the hundredths place. So if I'm comparing the numbers 0.11 to 0.9, it's important to remember that this number here, 0.9, is the same thing as 0.90. So it's like 90 cents. And the reason why that's true is because the 9 is in the hundredths place, or it's in the tens place, not the hundredths place. A lot of people think of 0.9 automatically as 0.09, and they say, well, 0.11 has to be greater because 11 is greater than 9. But notice that when we're talking about decimals, you can always add a 0 to the right, and it won't change the value of the number. 9 is in the tens place, so if we add a 0 in the hundredths place, it's just showing us that 0.9 is really 0.90, whereas this is not true. So that's all a very long way of saying that 0.9 is greater than 0.11, and when I return to my list, I'm going to want to put 0.11 closer to the least side, closer to the -9, then 1/9, or I'm sorry, 0.11 is 1/9, so you can write it either way. And then after 1/9 or 0.11 would come 0.9. So that was part 1 of our do now, and hopefully helped you review positive or negative numbers. The second part of the do now is more current to what we're working on the last few weeks. So we have our x-axis side to side and our y-axis up and down. It's always helpful for me to refresh my memory what's x and what's y. When you get a coordinate pair, you always have your x value first, which is again side to side, and your y value second, which is again up and down. So we know, for example, that for coordinate pair A, we have +2, +5, which means we're going to move over 2 spaces side to side, find my +2, and 5 spaces up and down. In other words, 2 side to side, 5 up and down. And I'm going to go ahead and plot my point A. Same thing with point B. I've got -2, +5. So in this case, my side to side will be over to the -2 and up to the +5, which is point B. Point C will follow the same process, and notice that I'm erasing the extra lines in between each point just to keep things neat. I've got -2, -5, so I'm going to go over -2, because again, the first number tells me how far side to side, and then I'll go down to the -5. So I line up with the -5. Got point C. And finally, I have +2, -5, that's point D. I'm going to go over to the +2, down to the -5, that is point D. So again, you want to line up with your x value, which is 2, that's your x, and your y value, which is -5. And that will always work for plotting any points. That should be a little review of what we've been covering the last few classes. So all of this stuff is in your Desmos from today, which again is just the classwork that's posted in today's folder. And the next thing that I want you to work on is slides 3 and 4. We just reviewed the Freckle and the classwork rubric. They're posted in today's notes if you want to take a look. You can see all the learning goals we're working on. Finding the distance between 2 points is what we're about to cover. I want you to go ahead and try opening activity on slide 3 and slide 4. Give that a try. So the first part of these directions say label each point with its coordinate pair. Now, I'm not going to label all 5, but let's do a couple of them together. I know that point A is over 4 spaces. That's the x-axis. Again, it's always helpful to have those labels of the x-axis, and I already have y labeled up there. Point A is 4 spaces side to side. 4 spaces side to side, and 3 spaces up and down. 4, 3. That's how we identify point A. Notice that I put it in parentheses. That's just the way that we write coordinate pairs. Then we have point B. Point B is 4 spaces side to side as well. 4 spaces side to side. And it lines up with -3 on the y-axis. 4, 3. So the question asks, how are A and B the same? Well, we can see by looking at point A and B that A and B have the same exact x-coordinate, +4, and that leads them to line up on top of each other. We've got A right over B. They have a different y-coordinate. Of course, one of them is positive and one of them is negative, and that would be how they are different. Their x equals 4, and the y-coordinates, they're not just different, the y-coordinates are opposites. One is +3 and one is -3. And the second question asks, how far away are A and B? And again, remember today's learning target is I can find the distance between 2 points on the coordinate plane. This should say points, of course. And we can tell that A is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from the x-axis. This makes sense because the y value is 3, so we know that we went 3 up. We can tell that B is also 3 spaces away from the y-axis, which makes sense because the y-coordinate is -3, so 3 down. And this means that in total, between A and B, there are 6 units. They are 6 units apart. And today's Desmos gave students the opportunity to practice finding the distance between points. If you weren't here, that's something you'll work on next class, but this is the procedure for finding the distance between 2 points. We're going to pause here. Would love it if you could try slide 4 before you close out of this Desmos. And then when you're done, there is a second Desmos activity that is linked on this page where you're watching this video that will help you make up today's classwork points.